Hopefully that was at the same time. I'm sure it
I mean,
was.
visually it looked synced up to me. Yeah.
It looked good, yeah. There's a visual delay, but I'm sure it's fine, and we're gonna be great. Yeah, nothing wrong here. But yeah, hello everyone. Hi over there. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tavern Adjacent. I almost said Roll for Insight because that's the name of my last show. Very unprofessional of me. But Bob, welcome to the show. Welcome back. Welcome to this show, but welcome back to the channel. It's good to have you here, man.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be back. Yeah, I was pleased to see that invite a couple weeks ago.
Awesome. Thank you so. Well, I'm really happy that you were pleased. Awesome. Good to know that I am that I am liked at the very least, mutually. Nice. Like your stuff. I hope you like my stuff too. And I hope you guys enjoyed as well. But Bob, we haven't had you on the channel for a long time, and you have had some pretty interesting projects in the past couple months. I mean, you first got on my radar because you were testing real life D&D movement and stuff like that. You were testing like how accurate is running speed, for example, right? Like like last year.
Yeah, that was I guess a year and a half ago, maybe even now.
Dang.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, but
it's like every couple months, just do one of these weird videos. Yeah.
But recently, you had two projects that really got the eye of the YouTube algorithm, especially on the shorts end. Congratulations, by the way. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. Honestly, I forget about that one because it was a short that had existed, like been out for probably a good month or two. And I honestly do very little with shorts, but suddenly, yeah, that just skyrocketed, became like by far my most viewed video at all, like video short content in general, whatever you want to call it. And so that came out of nowhere and was nice. That was
I was doing analytics research on all of the D&D channels, and I was like, oh, time for Bob. So I went to Bob's channel, and you know how when there's super uber high peaks, it's really hard to see and interpret the data on their tiny little graphs? Yeah, so
Sure.
On your thing, it's just line, giant peak, line.
That is pretty much my story with YouTube, is like very, I guess just episodic spikes of growth. Like it'll be several months of like, we're steadily climbing as a channel. And then I'll be like, okay, but what if you did this thing in real life? And YouTube always really likes those, so.
Heck yeah. Well, I mean, they are really cool videos. And I do want to ask, so, I mean, in case the audience is unaware of this miraculous video that we're talking about
Sure.
primarily the video where you test out D&D rations, right?
Yes.
You were eating like berries and hardtack.
Well, yeah. So it's specifically hardtack, jerky, dried fruit, and nuts. And then I did mix it up on the third day because I had to. But yeah.
Yeah, because okay, I've got to ask you because, dude, my stomach is weak. All right, I'm a weak guy. I cannot. I have no tolerance for food discomfort, and so
Okay.
I have to ask. Throughout this journey that you were going on, was there ever a moment of doubt where you sat down and were like, "Why am I doing this?"
For definitely the first time around. So maybe for some background for the listeners here, I did a video like this, and this is what that short we just mentioned, that short that like got too many views, honestly, was a clip from the like part 1, you could say, of this video, where I wanted to test out D&D's food rules in real life, and the underlying rule that I was looking at was just a part where it says word for word that a character needs 1 pound of food per day. So I took that in a literal sense intentionally to see how it fails, right? That like 1 pound of any food would be ridiculous, right? So I just used like my normal diet and just reduce the amount and just weighed everything out, so it'd only be a pound. That video, so that was a while ago. That one was really hard because it turned out to be not nearly enough food. I found out that I probably eat more like at least 2 pounds of food a day. I guess I never went back and measured my normal intake, but it was like, less than half probably of what I'd normally be eating. Doing that one was terrible because it was 3 days, and like by the end of the second day, it was just like pretty rough. This one was all about using these actual foods that are then listed under the definition of a ration, at least. So it's like separate from the food rule. But a lot of people commented like, why didn't you use actual rations? So it's like, okay, we'll do it that way this time. And so it was jerky, dried fruit, nuts and hardtack, just stuff I picked up from my grocery store, except the hardtack, which I had to make myself, which wasn't so bad. But that experience was actually way more pleasant, I guess you could say, because it's like those foods are all relatively like have pretty high calorie counts and stuff, and actually it was on, I think, after the first day where I couldn't even finish like a ration's worth of the food.
You were eating too much.
Yeah, because even though it was like a pound of these things, what was it? It was like either the jerky or just the mixed nuts that I had. I found out afterward. So on day 2, I was like,
if I
okay,
have mixed nuts, I'm gonna die.
Sure.
So I understand where you're coming. Yeah, I'm super.
Okay.
I'm super allergic. I've got a story for you after you finish this little thing.
Yeah. So basically, I then was like, okay, we're gonna actually, do all the calorie counting and like look at all the nutrition facts of this stuff, and found out that I was eating like well over 100% of like the recommended daily value of some of these things, including fat. So that just like completely filled me up, and I couldn't even finish it was actually a half ration. Yeah, because it was only a pound, whereas that's another discrepancy, whereas a ration actually technically weighs 2 pounds. So like there's all this weird stuff you could get into if you Yeah, so I couldn't even do like an actual half ration with these foods.
Yeah, no, we got like gesture to WotC designers. WotC designers, there's a major balance in frequency in Dungeons and Dragons that must be rectified immediately. Crawford, get this changed at once. Cut the rations in half. Our adventurers are eating too much. What are you doing, dude?
Yeah, and that's the part of this is like I was so hesitant. Like it took me this long to do this second version of it, doing the actual rations, even though so many people asked for it, because I was like, I know there's all these comments asking for it, but like nobody even uses these rules. Nobody even cares about like their adventurers eating during the day.
Yeah, who
like
pays attention to what food you're eating?
Yeah, like this isn't stuff that anybody thinks about, but I was wrong, and I'm glad it paid off, because when you take 3 days to shoot one video, it's nice when it gets a lot of views.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I got my nuts story. This is brief, I promise. But like you were talking about dried nuts, and I was thinking to myself, oh my God, that reminds me. So when I was a kid, my mom bought me these new granola bars because she always wants me to eat more and more because she thinks I don't eat enough. So she's like, I bought you these granola bars. Please take them. And I was like, okay, sure. So I ate one of the granola. I remember exactly when this was. This is when I was building my first ever Dungeons and Dragons, my DM screen, my first ever DM screen for my first ever game. So this is a fun little origin story.
Yeah, it's a cool milestone memory.
Yeah, milestone. Yeah. So anyway, when I was building my first ever DM screen, I was eating one of these granola bars. I ate one, and I was like, my throat kind of feels funny. Whatever. So anyway, I went to Home Depot to get some supplies because I didn't have enough screws. And as I'm in Home Depot, I'm starting to sweat.
Oh my God.
And I'm starting to like feel like I can't breathe. And I'm like, did I like touch some pollen or something? What's happening to me? I get back home, and because I'm like thinking in my head, there's a part of me that was like, oh, what if it was the granola bar? But I'm like, no way, my mom would give me a food that's gonna kill me. No, my mom's a nurse. She's a medical professional, and she's my mother. She would not do such a irresponsible and terrible thing. Also, my mom watches my stuff, so hey, mom, thanks for the story. But anyway, love you. But anyway, I get back home. I'm like, Mom, I'm starting to feel really bad, and my face is bigger than it was like 2 minutes ago. What's happening?
Oh no.
And my mom like rushes the granola bar. She checks it and she's like, we have to go to the ER right now. And I'm like,
wow.
Damn it, Mom. So anyway, we rushed to the ER, and the ER people say the most helpful thing when a youngish kid is stressed out and freaking out, they said, if you were 30 minutes later, you would be dead.
Wow.
And I was like, thank you, ER person. Yeah, that was very helpful information. So anyway,
wow.
I got to not go to school the next day. Even though I skipped out of high school for that day. Felt good.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, at least it's like, I guess at least your allergy needs that much time. I guess for some people it's super fast, right?
Oh, it's
You were able to take a trip to Home Depot.
Yeah, I was like, I was chill. I mean, I don't know if it was like the amount, because it was like in a granola bar.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I was like,
okay.
I didn't eat.
I guess that's the story. So it was just a thing that was probably like made in a factory with this same stuff. It wasn't actually in there, or.
Yeah, I have no idea. It was in there.
Never
It
know.
said contains tree nuts, and my mom was like, oh. So just Yeah, it was, but they were like cut up or something. I don't know.
Sure,
dude.
sure. Who knows?
All I know is my face was bigger, and I got to skip out on high school the next day, so I didn't have to go
Nice.
my world history
Got to
test
spend
or
that
whatever.
whole next day finishing your DM screen.
Yeah, and it turned out great. It was awesome. It was my first. It was nice, and I have great fond memories of that device. But yeah, there you go. There's my horrible nut story. I was like that puffer fish that they were suffocating with carrots.
Oh
on
my
Twitter.
gosh.
Did you see that?
I have not seen this, but I can only imagine. You're telling me
Oh my
they were
God.
feeding. I don't know. I'm not gonna pull up a video right now, I guess. But
No.
or were
I'm
you
not,
gonna?
I'm,
Okay.
I'm gonna pull it up, dude. This has to be rectified at once. Are you kidding me? I have 2 computers, so I can do this. I'll
Okay.
put the video in the thing.
We
I'm
have
not
the
kidding.
technology.
I have the technology to do this. We need to rectify this. We're talking about diet, and we don't watch the pufferfish video. Pop this link. Hopefully this is it. Can you hear it?
Oh yeah, I can hear it. That was way too human sounding. Oh my gosh.
That's not funny.
All right,
It's animal
people in the
cruelty.
comments though, you have to tell me: am I the only person who hasn't seen this, or is this also horrific news to you, people in the comments? Because
Okay, back to the actual serious conversation. back to the actual serious conversation. We got sidetracked. Hope you guys enjoyed that. But what I found interesting was your reasoning was actually quite reasonable. Like, we are not doing what our adventurers are doing. Like, they are like expending a
Yeah.
ton of energy, so naturally they would need
Totally.
more food. Yeah. Which I think is. Are you still thinking about the carrot and the pufferfish?
no. I was just thinking it's like, yeah, I guess I didn't try to do any numbers on like how much calories are you actually expending in a day if you like, that's what I should have done in the video where I like walked 24 miles was tried to measure my caloric expenditure.
Are you, and I have to ask, man, are you ever going to do a vid where you do it with encumbrance?
Like carry a bunch of things and walk that much?
Yeah.
I've thought about it a lot. I really don't want to do it again because that one was like, well, here's the thing. The day of, like at the end of that walk, well, and honestly, even like it was halfway through, I came home for a while because I had to like charge my camera and everything, charge my camera battery.
Yeah.
Charge my phone, which I was like tracking the mileage on and all this. So like partway through the day, I came home and I just like soaked my feet in the bathtub like an old person or something for a long time. And then that's what I did at the end of the day too. My legs were just like not ready for it. And I just like sat in nice comforting water for a while. But then like surprisingly the next day I like walked around just like a little bit to like move and then like by the following day I was totally fine. So I was actually shocked at how quickly I recovered from it. Because I didn't really prepare for it in any way at the time. I'll say at the time I was still like I had like my day job then. I'm now full-time YouTube. Yay. But at that time my day job was an outdoor educator. So I was like hiking around a lot. But nowhere near, maybe a couple miles, like maybe 2 or 3 miles in a day.
24 is
yeah.
intense.
So it was yeah. I was not like trained for it. So I'm glad I didn't like hurt myself. And that's what I'm basically worried about. Is like if I did try to repeat that distance while carrying an uncomfortable amount of stuff, like I just feel like something could go wrong. So
How much pain would I be in? Yeah. Things could possibly go wrong. So that's a no on the encumbrance test. Because I remember at the end of that video, because it's one of my favorites you've made. At the end of that video, you said like, we get X amount of likes, I'll do this, and I was like, did he ever?
I think it just didn't get the right amount.
Oh
in
no,
time.
they didn't do it. Oh,
or
they
it's like
didn't do it.
I think I don't know. I'd have to see what I said because I do my like it might take a long time, but I always keep to my word on those things. So
Oh, yeah.
So I'll have to check it out. Check out those numbers. I mean, I'm sure at this point it has as many likes, but if it was in a certain time frame or something, is probably how I worded it. But yeah, I would totally do some kind of encumbered. Well, actually, so here's the thing. Not all of those D&D IRL videos become popular because I did do like 2 that were about encumbrance, and in one of them I did walk. It might have just been 1 mile. It was either 1 mile or 3 miles.
And how much of a pain in the ass was it?
And I was technically encumbered. I was carrying like 50 pounds of weight, but it was just like in a weighted vest, so it was like extremely well distributed and everything.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and after just it was a very short distance, and like that was fine. So that's what I would have to do if I do anything else with encumbrance, which I probably will eventually, because I'm sure people are curious about that. I just really Here's the thing though, I really want to find somebody to sponsor this video that's just gonna like send me like legit armor or something. Like that I would totally do it. That'd be so
Ooh.
cool. That'd be so cool to do. And I don't think
Have you heard
anybody's
of?
done that before.
I've worked with Momo O'Brien. She's like a LARP creator in
Okay.
Canada, and she's got people who do armor things. I might send you the link. I think they would work. You got a pretty big audience. You got like
Yeah.
regular viewers. They'd be down to give you armor to die in
That
while
would be
doing
cool.
34
Yeah.
miles of hiking.
Well, that's the thing. So I guess I would have to see how much it actually weighs on me then. But I would do probably like half the distance or maybe even less depending on how much it actually weighs. But I would totally, if someone were gonna, yeah, really support me in that way and like give me some cool stuff. Oh yeah, I
So
would make an
basically,
effort.
audience out there, here, hey guys, come here. So our price for torturing Bob on a 34-mile walk is a full set of armor. Get cracking,
30,
on
not
it, guys,
34.
all right?
Let's say 3 to 4 miles right now.
3 to 4 miles of torture is a full set of armor. All right, get cracking, guys. Get to it. But yeah, you haven't just been, doing these fascinating D&D IRL challenges, though. You've also been talking about a lot about, as have many people. You've also been
Yeah.
talking about 1D&D, the next
So much
edition
talking about it. Yeah.
of this wonderful game that we all play. And so I think that it's about time we get into that, because there's a lot of changes that people are very hey everyone, I just want to pop in to say that we're about to talk about 1D&D, and I know a lot of you are thinking like, are you going to talk about the open game license stuff? And unfortunately not, because this video was recorded a while ago. The big controversy we're alluding to is actually the cleric changes from like a month ago. So yeah, we couldn't really talk about 1D&D open game license stuff because it hadn't happened yet, and unfortunately neither Bob nor I have developed the ability to see the future. Unfortunately. If you want Bob's thoughts on the matter, he has made a community post. If you want my thoughts, I basically share his thoughts. And TLDR, it's not good. It's bad. Open D&D, guys. It's really important. Third-party communities, the community itself, the community content that we create, it builds up the game itself. Like, this game is built on the backs of third-party creators. I barely use official content myself. I was going through all the third-party stuff that I use in my games, and I was shocked to see how much of it there really is. And this whole thing, it really, really sucks. Obviously, it's still alleged. We still are waiting to see how this developing situation is going to unfold, but it is important that you make your voice heard if you want to support third-party creators and the people who, in my opinion, build this game up even better than it was before. Then, help trend Open D&D, talk to WotC, express your discomfort with this situation, and express your discontent. If you're discontent in their surveys, they're there for a reason. I mean, it is definitely a situation, to say the least. But of course, it's not a situation we could talk about here. I just wanted to pop in to clarify that, because this is important, but we couldn't talk about it in this podcast. Hope you guys enjoy anyway. If you want to skip the 1D&D section because it's not going to address this, I totally understand. We got voicemails at the end, so, just go there if you want some more of our hot take horror story stuff. Guys, we're back. Hello, everyone, and we're back for 1D&D. So, in general, at this point, we've had our expert classes. We had some big changes to the cleric, or at least big to some people. We had the species revamp.
Yeah, wow.
Rework, I'll say. And we had a bunch of like miscellaneous rules changes. We got the dazed feature. We got turn undead changes. Lots of fun stuff. So overall, this far into the process of the playtesting, obviously we're not even close. We're not even really in alpha stage. But at this point, how are you feeling?
I just think it's gonna be fine. Basically, like that's just my totally lukewarm take on it. Is like, yeah, like it's gonna be almost the same as 5e. Like when you get into the nitty gritty of how a lot of these rules work, there will be changes. But I don't know. I'm kind of in favor of a lot of the streamlining. Like, one thing that's coming up and was a big thing that people were talking about with the cleric was how you choose the subclass at level 3 now instead of 1. And that's like a change they want to make across the board. And so, yeah, sure, for the cleric, like typically you'd have your chosen domain / deity at level 1. So therefore, okay, like thematically and for role-playing purposes, it's a little weird for that to come in at 3rd level. I get that. But it's like how much does it really like change your enjoyment of D&D, you know?
Yeah.
So apparently to a lot of people it might mean a lot to them.
It's a big deal. But
yeah,
I
so
actually,
it's like I don't want to
I see where they're coming from.
but yeah.
Well, thank you for saying that. I see where they're coming from with that, especially since like I watched the Crawford interview, not the whole thing. I don't know if you saw XP to level 3, Jacob, his video on it.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with his take. I don't think it's like a disastrous change, but I do agree that like at the end of the day, if they want to simplify down classes, like there's only so much you can do. There's always going to be some classes that are naturally more powerful or not more powerful, more complicated than others.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's just gonna be more stuff to think about when you're playing them. And so like having just a little bit of extra degrees of complexity with like warlock or cleric that choose their subclass at level 1 or choose like their domain or patron at level 1, I don't think that's like game breaking or game like shattering for new players. Like I don't think that that's what new players are worried about when they're jumping into D&D. And thematically, this is the thought I had. Like what if when Jester started out in Critical Role, no Traveler for 3 levels?
Right.
Like I just don't think
that would be weird.
It wouldn't parse to me.
I guess I'm looking at it as a lot of the like connection to the deity is not mechanical anyway. Like I obviously a lot of the cleric's features are based on that, but like you can have whatever domain and choose however many different deities or like multiple deities even technically, even though most people just choose one based on a domain. It's like I guess it's just because people already play it a certain way. Like we interpret that rule, like coming in at 1st level, like we interpret that to mean, okay, so I get my god at 1st level too. But really it's like you could get it whenever. I don't know. Like you're getting the powers. It's like that connection can develop in many different ways. It's just like, I guess because we're all used to this one way, then it feels like a huge change. But yeah, I don't know. My most recent take on a lot of this though is because this is like I have a video coming up this week that's talking a little bit about 1D&D but then trying to focus on like what are the other like cool things happening for D&D in 2023 because it's been a lot of like doom and gloom lately. So my most like something I bring up in that is just how we who are online like in the D&D world, like if you think about, say, and I don't go into this specific, but if you think about like the views that a channel like XP to level 3 gets, or even Critical Role, right? Like a couple million views on a video at most. I don't know about Critical Role. XP to level 3, let's say like 1 to 3 million views, okay? There are like 40 million estimated D&D players globally right now. So it's like we're still like us online D&D people. And again, remember, that's like a million views coming on the most viewed thing. Like on average, maybe a couple 100,000 people that are really invested in all these rules. Like we're a really small part of the D&D community. We're just the ones that are talking about it, you know? So it's like, one, it's weird that Wizards of the Coast is even like taking like the advice of just such a small portion of the community to build the next edition. But 2, it's like the things that we might be complaining a lot about, the vast majority of D&D players like don't even know about, probably. Yeah. don't even know.
Honestly, don't know, don't care.
Right. I think a part that I had in there but I cut was saying how like the majority of like real and true D&D fans, because like their opinions matter just as much as us, they haven't even heard of 1D&D yet, you know?
Oh yeah.
Like I assume that's the case for like a lot of people who are just
that survey does not have like even I would guarantee you that even like 0.1, and I actually I did a lot of studies on polling people for some reason. Cool. I don't know why I did that, but I was really bad at the class, so don't take any of my word as like fact just because I said that. But I did do a little bit on this, and generally, most people do not have like an active opinion. They only develop it once they're asked, right? Like their opinion is not always ingrained in their heads, but once the question is brought up, then it's developed. And that's kind of how I see a lot of what's going on with 1D&D. Like our perspective we don't really develop this until WotC steps forward and asks us the question, which is why like we as content creators online get like very into, or not, well, definitely not all of us. I don't talk about 1D&D at all, but
we're tuned in.
We're tuned in. Yeah, we're tuned into the goings on with that whole platform. But at the end of the day, even though we're the ones who like are the face of that feedback a lot of the time on the internet, that doesn't really reflect the greater audience. Just because, like, yeah, you're right. There is a huge silent majority that play Dungeons and Dragons and don't even like interact with an online fan base.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like I don't know. There's been some recent videos about that. I don't know if you watch or have seen any of these videos that were kind of popular over the holidays by Ben from Questing Beast. He's a channel that focuses a lot on like indie games and like old school games related to D&D. But he had some recent ones about 5e and saying how, with a lot of these people, like he called it folk D&D, where it's like it's people who are just kind of playing their own game at home and like disconnected from like all the news and goings on, but that's the thing. It's like their experience with D&D is just as valid as ours, they don't, and that's the majority of people probably not really taking a whole lot of stock of even what's in the books, let alone like this theoretical stuff that might go into the next books. So
exactly.
and again, like, it's like I do want to say alongside this, just like we said with the cleric, it's like I don't want to say like, oh, like you're dumb for caring about this. Like, no, it's really cool that people are so invested in this and want to see it like turn into the best game that we can make it. But I just do think it's like when it gets to the point where people are being angry online about it, it's like, okay, well then we can chill out a little bit. So
yeah, especially since
there's a line somewhere.
You're right. First and foremost, if you care about this stuff, like, good on you. That's awesome. Like, you should care.
I care too. It's just
we obviously care, guys. We care. Trust me, we care. But it's literally our livelihoods. But so we care. But like, you're right about that. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. When you said like it's fine, like that is exactly what like my perspective has been on 1D&D as a whole. I think I brought this up when I talked about D&D in 2023 because we've got so many like new media stuff happening with new media for Dungeons & Dragons. We got like the movie, Critical Role's got their season 2 is coming out. Baldur's Gate has got its release. They're trying to make Neverwinter not suck, which good luck with that, guys.
Is that that's another game coming out?
It's
an
MMO. It's an MMO that's been around for a while. It ran down the pay to win tube a little bit too quick though, and it's in a rough spot. In the MMO.
If you ask
world.
a lot of people on D&D YouTube, that's the way everything's going.
So. I mean that's a good point. But I mean, like 1D&D, I think is fine overall, like the gameplay. But like one thing that has. And obviously, like, this is I'm going to be honest, guys, like, and I'm going to own this. For me, this is a very premature point of view and something that, like, is very flawed. But it's still a point of view that I have, so I want to share it. I have felt, like, very blasé towards a lot of the changes. Like, the vast majority of them, I'm like, yeah, that works. That's cool. Scroll, move on.
Right.
Like, nothing is a change that really makes me go, whoa, that's awesome. Like, that is going to make the game so much better. Like, when XP Level 3 was talking about the game, and I agree with a lot of what he said, but one thing he talked about as a big win is like, oh, these are homebrew things that a lot of us are already doing, and that's awesome. And to me, that's like, my reaction to it was, oh, this is a lot of the homebrew things we're already doing. That's fine. Like, it's cool that these are all things that we've been doing for a while, but it's not going to change the game for me. Whereas when I look at Matt Colville's Flea Mortals, every time a new update comes to that PDF, I immediately rush to my laptop, download it, scroll through it, and every stat block blows my mind. And I'm like, Matt Colville, you're a genius. You're amazing. I never get that feeling from downloading WotC's playtest material. Ever. Yeah. Except for the Dazed condition. Dazed is awesome. Get rid of Stunned and replace it with Dazed right now, if you're listening to this.
Nice. Yeah, I do think now I'm not as tuned into like what Matt Colville's latest projects are, but I know that stuff that he's doing is, at least for 5e, very innovative because it's like apparently based on stuff that used to exist in previous editions. At least that was the case for like Strongholds and Followers and
Yeah.
probably some of his Kingdoms and Warfare stuff. I don't know. Like I've heard that some of the new monster things that he's doing are kind of based on some mechanics from like fourth edition. I'm sure a lot of it's like original too. I'm not saying he's just like taking these ideas.
Oh no.
But what I'm saying is like yeah, he is or his team are innovating like and changing the game. Whereas yeah, if 5e's goal is like we don't really want to change anything because we know it's good, but we're just gonna like add in these things that people are doing at home. Well, then it doesn't really change the game if that's the way everyone's playing anyway. So it's like, yeah, and maybe that's a good thing, but yeah, I don't know. It's so hard to like parse out. I don't know. I'll say one change that I liked. It was kind of a simplification in a lot of ways. Is the changes to exhaustion, whereas it used to have like 6 levels and they were each very specific, like in their effects. Now it's just like a -1 to maybe all D20 tests. I don't even remember off the top of my head now for each level, and it just like stacks in that way. And I looked at it as like, okay, so huge simplification. I don't have to memorize these like or worrying about looking up these 6 levels anymore. Which, by the way, like I did a poll about it, and the vast majority of people like never even got past level 3 like ever in their D&D experience.
No.
Because it's a thing that like once it gets to a certain point, it's like so debilitating. It's like the main point is like the main focus of that player or even the party is like, okay, we need to get this person's levels of exhaustion down immediately. So with this new way they're doing it with 1D&D exhaustion just being like a -1 and that can stack, it's nice, and then it's like adaptable and you could use it for other things like more easily too. So there's like a couple things like that I've seen that I really liked, but yeah, overall it's like you can't really compare that to probably the stuff like that's truly innovative that like Colville and other third-party publishers are probably doing.
Yeah, no, and again, like I'm not trying to dog every single change in 1D&D.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're good changes. Like the vast majority of these changes, I like, but
yeah.
I don't love. Right? Like these are all
Yeah.
changes that maybe go, yeah, that's cool, and then I just move on with my life.
Yeah.
This is the comparison I use. This doesn't feel like an expansion. It feels like patch notes, like a minor patch in a video game, something small.
And I think that's kind of what they, I don't know, like with a lot of the language they used early on with saying like, you know, it's not a new edition and it's all backwards compatible. Like that's definitely the way it should feel, I guess. Like
Yeah.
it should feel that it's not huge leaps in any direction, because if it's gonna be compatible and it's gonna be the same edition, like, which it's not, like we're getting new core books, but whatever.
Yeah, I saw like, come on, guys.
Like it shouldn't feel that different. So in that way, they're kind of like sticking to their goal, I guess. But I don't know. Again, it's like overall, like if they changed up a lot of things, I'd probably be less inclined to play it. Like, and I think that's the point
true.
of them not wanting to change a lot. Like, I think they want to keep it pretty familiar for probably the vast majority who aren't like studying the changes. So yeah, so they feel, so I don't know, the majority of the D&D player base can feel like, yes, my beloved edition of the game is
still
not
here,
getting thrown out. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you are right though. Like even though I am bummed out by lack of like major innovations, I gotta side with you here. If they make sweeping huge changes, I mean, look what happened when because like one of the only sweeping huge changes that they made that would really fundamentally change how your game is played, the crit change rules. And what happened when the crit change rule, the crit rules were changed?
It was like the first thing tossed.
People freaked the hell out. And I'm not saying that they were wrong. I think it was a bad rule. But I mean, again, like that is kind of like the thing I was leaning towards, and it didn't turn out really well. So
yeah. Or the thing is, it's like that could work, but there would have to be like a lot more support in other areas. Like in Crawford's initial explanation of that, he said that, okay, yeah, like we're testing this out. And it was so funny how he was like so careful to be like, yeah, this is just flight test, like blah, blah, like knowing the reaction could be so visceral. But he said that this could work because a lot of monsters have recharge abilities that are kind of like this extra powerful attack, but instead of it being a random thing, the DM gets to choose when it's implemented. And so like that would be cool if like every monster had an ability like that, but it's only more powerful ones that have those sort of things. And maybe, I don't know, maybe you don't want it for everything, but And I don't know. Overall, it's like that would have to be a sweeping change. Like if they wanted to give a recharge ability to every monster or something. So,
I think
and
that
I
that
don't
would
think they're
be
gonna
an
do.
amazing change if
I
they
think it
gave
would be
more
kind of
abilities
cool. It'd be
to
cool to
every
have it as an
monster.
option. Yeah, and you know what? Maybe that's a like I don't know. I guess that could happen. We haven't seen any new monsters yet, so
And do you know
that
who's
could be a
doing
thing.
that? Matt Colville
Matt
and Flea
Colville.
Mortals. Available now on Kickstarter. Buy it now. I need you to show him where the money is so he makes more of these. Because seriously,
Right.
I'm not kidding. I'm running 2 streamed games, or I ran a streamed game
Oh, cool.
last couple months ago. I'm running one right now. I have only used Matt Colville's monsters. I haven't touched a single
Wow.
monster from 5e. It has made the game 10,000 times better in every damn way. Like I can't go back. I've limited
Yeah, let me
myself.
ask this.
Go.
So, like, for somebody who's not, again, like, not really tuned into his like changes, is it mostly stuff for, like, a singular like boss entity that they're going to be fighting, or like the party's fighting, or is it like you could have a party of like goblins or whatever, and the goblins are all really cool, or
So this is the coolest part. It's both. So here's what he's done.
okay,
He has created his monster manual. Essentially has a bunch of obviously no WotC trademarked creatures because they're
Right.
dancing around a few things, but like stuff such as there are 8 stat blocks for different types of orcs, or 8 stat blocks for different like classes of humans, all with their own unique abilities, but unified by a singular identity. So like all the orcs, for example, they have a blood rage that they go into when they hit 0 hit points, meaning that players need to be more strategic with how they down these orcs, because if they down a bunch of orcs at the same time, all of them are going to go into a blood rage and tear you a new one. So you have to be more
Wow.
strategic on how you handle them. Or gnolls, whenever one of their allies die, the gnoll gets an automatic attack. So now you have to be better with your positioning, because if you're close to a
Wow.
bunch of gnolls, you down one of them, all the other gnolls are going to close in on you. So you got to
is really
position
cool.
yourself a little bit better. And then boss monsters get new things called villain actions, which are essentially legendary
Yeah.
actions, but better because they're more focused around the minions that the villain has, or the thematic
Sure.
abilities of something like a
Good,
vampire
yeah.
lord or a major ghost.
Nice.
It's very well designed. Every monster also takes advantage of stuff like reactions and bonus actions, so there's more stuff that they can do. So they're not
Yeah.
just like multi-attack every single
Yep.
time.
Yeah.
It's made
Nice.
combat so much more fun, and there are things. It is a different curve because now challenge rating is even more useless than it was before because these monsters have more abilities. And
course.
I honestly think his challenge ratings are not accurate to how challenging they actually are. I can throw CR3 monsters at a level 11 party and legitimately challenge them.
Wow.
It just depends on the amount. There's a lot of really cool
Right,
rules
okay.
here. And I mean, the reception to the Shadow over Carconos combat, which is my stream show, was positive, even though like there's a lot of shit in there that people would generally not like a ton of homebrew rules and a bunch of this nonsense garbage that I put into my games. But respectfully. but overall, the response was extremely positive because the monsters were way more dynamic, they did way more, and they actually felt like a threat that both the audience and the players like understood. Like these monsters are actually like threatening us. There's more
Yeah.
that they can do, and they can even pull out unexpected moves. So yeah, I support this book 10,000%, and I think everyone needs to know about it. It's not even out yet.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
yeah,
That
it's
was
so
like a
good.
while ago when the Kickstarter was going on, and every once in a while I see one of his like update videos on YouTube. But since I haven't been like following the Kickstarter, I usually skip those ones. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I need to look into this more.
Yeah, can I convert you to a true believer? Join us.
I mean, that's just a weird thing. Like for some reason, I haven't like a while ago. Like I guess probably not long after it was the big story, Strongholds and Followers. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get this book. But then I never got around to it, and then I haven't like followed his other projects really since then. So yeah,
This
for some reason
actually,
I kind of
to
like fell
me,
off that train.
I actually got Strongholds and Followers, and I used it briefly, but I didn't use it a lot because even though he innovates, it's not for everybody. But I
Yeah.
think Flea Mortals can be used by any DM to
Right,
instantly
because
improve the game.
it's monsters. Yeah, so it's
just
like you can't really go
monsters.
wrong. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
I will say, though, because they're bigger stat blocks, there's more to read, so, get ready for
yeah.
that. But, that's the only thing. But, yeah, overall,
drawback.
little bit of a side tangent there, but I wanted to convert you into a true believer so that maybe you could make a video on this and get more people to buy this book.
I'm definitely interested now. Yeah.
Did I succeed? Awesome. But yeah, I mean, that's even though like those kind of changes are amazing, like what you said earlier does resonate. Like you need to like also respect the people who like 5e and want it to like, not be too torn. Because remember what happened when you got from 3.5 to 4? They completely tore. They made a new thing, and was it good?
Literally, it's just been buried by everyone. Like no one even. Well, except maybe Matt Colville, who's like
Matt
allegedly,
Colville, though,
pulling some things out of it. But yeah.
I mean, it's not a bad. I talked to B. Dave Walters about it. It's not a bad game, but it just wasn't D&D, and I think that's what WotC's afraid of. It's not going to be D&D if they change it too much. So I respect that. But yeah, final thoughts. Like, how do you feel about like what are your wants? Like, actually, final thoughts. What are your wants? Like, what's your wish list? What do you want out of this game for one D&D? Like, if you had mind whammy powers and you now control Jeremy Crawford, who totally just owns the entire company and is a god who just makes all the changes
completely.
himself.
I'm pretty sure he just is Hasbro, right?
Yeah, that's how it works, right? That's how it works. But yeah, you control Jeremy Crawford now. You're Jeremy Crawford. What are you adding into one D&D? What's your wish list?
See, so here's my like thing that a lot of people, I don't know, this is probably an actual hot take, right? Would be that I would simplify the game. Like 5e's already like whoa, it's so simple and easy to get into. But it's like, there's like 12 classes to choose from. And like, how many races now just in the core book? It's like 9 different things. Like that's already a matrix of player choice to work out. It's like, I don't know. I would, so as an example of something I like is the class groups. But I look at that. So we talked about like the expert class group. That's like the rogue, ranger, and another one that's, I can't think of right now, bard. Yeah. And I look at that as like, well, then really it's like instead of a class group that branches into 3 classes or 3 classes, and then each of those classes is going to have 4 subclasses, it's like we really should just have like the expert class. And then like the bard is a subclass, the rogue is a subclass, the ranger is a subclass. Like that's how I look at it, just because all of those so the expert group's kind of the worst example to talk about this with. But like when I recently made a video about clerics and everybody's, saying how it's like, well, a cleric needs to have a god like this because if they don't, then they're a warlock. And if they don't have a god in this way, then they're a paladin. It's like, well, really, we just have 3 classes that are the same thing, is what you're saying. Yeah. So it's like, it's just the same class. Like they're, so that's my change.
Damn,
that
is a hot
actually just like
take.
A little too complex.
I like it though. I like
it'll
it.
It'll obviously never happen because
I don't know if I do that
back.
myself.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna do that myself, but I do like understand where you're coming from. Totally. That's like, I like how when I ask you for a hot take, like what you want to add into D&D, you actually give me something interesting. So I really appreciate that, dude. That's actually, that gives us all a lot to think about. But yeah, speaking of things we gotta think about, I got some people calling. You have time to answer? All right, Dr. Phil, what have we got?
Hello. So, I have a interesting situation on my hands. I have been DMing for the same group for going on almost 3 years at this point. And there is a member of my group that has been making it harder for the other players and myself to have as much fun. Like he'll he bogs down the game a lot of the times. Like he will butt into other people's conversations or roleplay moments to make sure we know exactly what his character's doing, and he will take 5 to 10 minutes describing exactly how he does something as simple as drinking out of his mug at the tavern. And we've been playing with him for so long, and he has kind of a rough home life, and I don't want to want to feel like we're attacking him, or I don't want to make him feel like we don't like him. But I'm wondering, like, what's your advice on how we could possibly confront him about how he's been?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a kind of, or like a relatively mild case of like again, not like problem player, problem behavior, right? Like it's just
Yeah.
like and it's not extreme. It's just well, the interrupting definitely would get annoying over time, and then did I just have a cat walking in this room? Okay, and
We got
interrupting
the cat, guys.
and where were we at? And with taking a long time then when he's like on these little tangents. So I think the simple thing is just like aside, right? It's not like in front of the whole group because you don't want to gang up on him or anything. And it could be the DM, it could be anybody really, but should just privately say like, hey, I noticed like during that session, like maybe you don't even have to say that it's like a thing you've been thinking about a long time. Usually better just be honest. So yeah, say like, yeah, like I've noticed that a lot of the time when other people are kind of like describing what they're doing, you'll interject, and then it kind of like takes away from what they were like. It ends up like taking away from what they were doing. Like literally just say what's going on because it's definitely a thing that he probably doesn't even know that they're doing. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, one thing that I will always say, because, even though I know a lot of people are thinking, like, oh, obviously you're not going to be mean to the guy if you're just, like, talking to him, but a lot of people are worried that the second you bring up, like, any sort of thing that even, like, approaches confrontation,
Right.
a lot of people get worried and afraid, and I think reasonably, that it's going to turn ugly, like, quickly,
Yeah.
because criticism often, and it's just an unfortunate like fact of life, criticism often can turn ugly. And even if we have one experience where that one guy freaks out when they're criticized, it sours the practice for all eternity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like I don't know if I had one of those and I've just repressed it or something, but I'm a very non-confrontational person because I like don't, I guess I'm afraid to get into stuff. But when it's like a game, like the stakes are relatively low and like, you don't want to ruin your friendship or like throw off your group with this person. But I don't know. I think another thing would be to do it in person if you can, or at least like if you do play online, like use a video chat or something. Because definitely if you're saying this stuff over text, like you don't know how it's going to come off to them. Like it's harder to have the emotion in what you're saying if it's just like a text message, like through whatever platform you're using. So definitely like having that conversation in person if you can is good. But yeah, I don't know. That's what I would have. Just be honest.
Also, on top of being honest, like don't just tell them what the problem is. Explain your solution if you have one.
That's very good. Yeah.
And also, you said that it could be the player or the DM. I have to disagree. I think it has to be the DM. I think it has to be the DM every time.
Okay.
Like even if feel free to like to disagree yourself because like obviously two people could have two different perspectives. But to me, even though I don't think this should be the way it is the way it is. DMs often take that leadership position, even if they don't necessarily want, maybe not even deserve it, but it's just something that happens. And DMs have this perceived level of authority that goes beyond what another player would have.
Right. I guess I look at it as like it depends on how well everybody in the group knows each other or whatever. Like if a player came to me and privately and was like, hey, something this other player is doing is bothering me, but I don't want to talk to them about it. Like, okay, yeah, then sure. But at least in the groups that I've like played in, like we're typically all pretty close friends, or like friends of friends kind of thing. And it's like not often that I've run into these kind of situations personally. So I can just say that from my own experience, like usually it's something that can just kind of be handled like even without the DM, I guess, just because it's just interpersonal. Like the DM might not really have anything to do with it, depending on how much it crosses into the game. But I agree with what you're saying that the DM like technically has that level of authority at the table, and then so if it's coming from the DM, it should be more respected just because of the nature of the game itself, because it's like, especially if the DM is hosting the game, again, like that can be different whether it's an in-person versus online game. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think my perspective on it is like soiled by the fact like that I had a problem player, and like when other people talked to him about it, he wouldn't take them seriously. He wanted it directly from me, and I didn't want to talk to him about this situation at hand, because it was very it was rough. And I didn't want to have that confrontation. But the truth is, and I own this, I just needed to own up, man. I needed to go there and have that confrontation, because at that point he was like haranguing my other players, and it was my responsibility to do something, and I didn't 100%. Do anything, and that's something that I regretted. So
yeah, at that point, if it's a thing where they literally won't even take the other player seriously, like, okay, well then that's a more severe issue. If someone, because it's like,
I'm sure that this guy's not having that problem if you're watching this, by the way.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Let's hope so. But yeah, hopefully that helped you out. Just a humble conversation is all you need, and hopefully this player can figure out their butting in behavior, and you guys can all have a really fun game. By the way, I edit in the voicemails after the fact, so don't worry about any noises made during the voicemail itself, because it won't be heard.
Okay.
Pinky promise. Next one.
Hi, Crispy. I'm currently in a D&D game where I'm one of the oldest players, but my sense of humor is a lot more wholesome and down-to-earth compared to the others. I think Hank, a Disney fan, being exposed to Rick and Morty jokes was kind of different. And I do enjoy the game and the other players when we're playing, but outside the game, it's getting to be a bit much for me. I know this isn't really a huge problem, but it's something that I feel like could still be discussed, especially if it's starting to mess with someone's ability to enjoy the game. I'm just looking for some advice, I guess, and I was hoping that maybe you could have some advice for me and possibly others who are also dealing with this issue. I'm just at a loss. I'm honestly debating if I should leave the game because of it, because it's become such an issue for me. I have spoken to the DM about it, but things just aren't really improving since I seem to be the odd one out while everyone else enjoys these jokes. I don't know. I'm just at kind of a loss and hoping that maybe you can give me some advice. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have many grand adventures.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate you. That was so nice and sweet.
Yeah, it's very, very sweet. Okay, my gut reaction to this is not great. So it's like I feel bad for this person, first of all, because it's like they went to their DM. They went to their DM, and it sounds like the DM was like, hey, well, if it's just you, then, and it's like, well, it's like, so then there's two things. Like, first of all, one, you did a great thing, right? You went to the DM and stated your case, how you felt about it. And unfortunately, maybe it was I don't know. I don't know how that conversation went, but it sounds like for one reason or another, the DM didn't take it seriously, right? So either a follow-up could be good, or it's depending, because only they really know how that conversation went. If it was a thing where you really laid it out as clearly as possible, and then the DM still didn't take it seriously, then it's just kind of disrespectful. At which point it's do we really want to play with these people, or at least with that person? So it's you could have a good relationship with the other players still, and maybe some of them would be totally open to if this is another thing that I'll usually advise is running your own game with your own style, with your own preferences, and then you can choose your own players based on those preferences. So you have that control too. Can sometimes work.
Yeah, my perspective is also I'm gonna be honest. I have that kind of not me, but my group has that kind of humor too. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, if somebody doesn't agree, and at the end of the day, I should say, if somebody doesn't vibe with that, I mean, one person versus the whole group, I tell them look, I'm sorry, but I think you might want to either leave out character conversation if you don't want to join in, or we can help find you another group, because this is the way my friends act, and while I would love to play with you, I can't tell them all to stop what they're doing for, especially in out of character conversation. However, this DM should be helping this person at least to a degree. Obviously, right. For the whole group, I think it's unreasonable to change the whole group's sense of humor. That's just not going to happen ever. But I mean, the fact that they didn't even take it seriously is like a big ol' red flag. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, part of me wonders, like, maybe if, again, because we were just talking about like confrontation versus not, like, if it was stated in a way that it's like you didn't want to make it sound like a big deal, even though it feels like a big deal, then the DM might have heard it in a way that it didn't seem like a big deal. But again, like, we didn't hear what the true conversation was like, so I have to believe that like it was stated as clearly as possible that like, hey, this thing that's bothering me, and then basically the DM just kind of like didn't listen. So
yeah,
that's not a good situation. And it's probably better to try to, again, find a different group, or again, totally run your own game, and maybe you can recruit some of those players, not like steal them from that campaign. Like, a lot of people have time for more than one game of D&D in their life, so you could still play with some of them, because probably some of those players would be fine to, like, turn that switch in their head. Like, think about it. Like, we all like can have filters. Like, we don't necessarily talk the same way in front of our, in front of our best friends as we do in front of like a stranger or something. So like, everybody does have filters we can turn on and off. So potentially some of those players would be able to line up with the play style you want. And if not, then like, we were just saying, there's how many millions of D&D players out there right now? Like, there's people who would be happy to be in the game you want to play. So yeah.
Also, I think that solution, I just thought of this, but I think that solution of like, look, if you want to play with these people and you enjoy playing with these people, but just don't enjoy the out-of-game conversation, you don't need to participate in it. Like, I have one of my group members. She doesn't like we, after all of our D&D games, we play Minecraft until 3 a.m. and like curse up a storm and be, dorks and build battle or whatever. She doesn't like Minecraft. She doesn't like doing those things, and that's okay. She just goes to sleep, and none of us hold it against her.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I heard that during the call, but then it totally slipped my mind how they said it was a lot of it happening in out-of-game conversations. So yeah, you don't feel like you need to participate in that. Maybe it's in a group chat or something that's like you're also seeing, I guess, could be it. But yeah, if it's a thing where you only really want to engage with these people during the game, then that's cool okay too. So yeah.
I mean, I obviously like at the end of the day, I hope you figure this out, and it's okay for two different people to play two different games in two different places if they don't vibe together. But final voicemail. I don't know.
Let's do it.
I mean, we're randomly picking between okay, here we go. This one's 29 seconds.
Hello, Crispy. Do you have any advice on how to be a good DM? Particularly avoiding being really controlling about your story. Because my current DM is facing a bit of burnout, and I want to DM. Well, the last time I've ever DM'd, it turned out that I was really railroady and found it hard to let players make independent decisions. So if you have any advice of how I can avoid repeating that mistake, I'd greatly appreciate it.
So from there, it's like, well, I guess first of all, this just sounds like you're a great player, because it's like, first, you're willing to step in and DM, and you like are taking this advice or feedback from what you did previously that players didn't like. So it's like, that's already showing amazing signs.
You're great, dude. Awesome.
yeah, this is a great situation. This is unlikely to end poorly. So it's like the fact that you're seeking this feedback, it's just another great sign. So to not railroad, basically, I think it's a matter, I mean, that means a lot of different things to different people, but I look at it as like a module is probably not the way to go, because like then that's going to be like a set track that the party's expected to follow. So you probably want to run something homebrew. Like, maybe that was already what you were thinking. And then in that case, it's like just leaning more into player backstory, I feel like, is always the way to make it at least feel like, if there are rails, that it's being established by the party and not just by the DM. That's my first reaction to that.
My advice is also to establish, like, hey, I now use these all the time, even though I didn't give a hot shit about them before. But the 3 pillars of D&D,
sure.
like the exploration, the combat, the social. Like, I didn't think about it too much, but now I'm like, hey, my games have a lot of combat and social, but very low exploration. Like, they are not linear, but they definitely have like a direction, right? I don't plop you in the city and you can do whatever you want with 1,000 side quests everywhere. You could take a ship and sail off somewhere completely different. Like, no, you're in the city to do something and you need to do it. And that's like a social contract that's set up between the DMs and the players that I set up at session 0. I say like, hey, look, a lot of social, a lot of combat, not a lot of exploring. And I think that that's a perfectly valid way to play.
Yeah, I think that's a great point too. Just setting the expectation. So assuming this is like the same group that you had DM for in the past, and they had said it was kind of railroady, I guess it's like, yeah, just having that conversation with the players, maybe even like pre-session 0, because it's just like feeling this out, like whether or not you're going to be the DM. Like, who knows? Maybe another player wants to DM and they just haven't had the courage to step up yet. Like that, you could totally leave it open to somebody else first. But then if it turns out like, yep, people want you to DM, they just want it to be a little different from last time, then just asking them what they want is you kind of can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. Also, like that backstory advice is damn stellar because you can be very. How I really want to avoid the word linear, but you can be very directed with backstory content, but to the players, it feels open because they created it.
Exactly.
It's an illusion. Also, by the way, I just got a notification. It's a Crit Crab's birthday. Happy birthday, Crit Crab.
Happy birthday, Crit Crab.
Yeah. Hope you have a good birthday. I just got a text from him. So, yeah, there you go. Happy birthday, man. But, honestly, like, I just want to end this off by saying, like, good on this guy for, like, asking for feedback and, like, stepping up for his DM. Like, that's like...
Yeah, it's a solid group. If you have that kind of relationship with each other. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. So good on you. Thank you so much for asking, and I hope that you have a wonderful time playing D&D. But that's our final voicemail, Bob. Yeah. All that's left after we have been here for way longer than was anticipated. Sorry about that, by the way. But I enjoy talking to you, man.
This is great.
Yeah, but anyway, all that's left is to finish off the show by asking you, Bob, what have you got going on right now? Tell the people they need to know.
Well, to all you wonderful listeners out there who like listening to stuff, I do have a second channel now called Bob's RPG Radio, where it is pretty much strictly audio content, just like longer form stuff, old podcast episodes that were up, like used to be Patreon exclusive. Now they're for everybody. And there's a new show that's been going on that patrons still get a little earlier than everybody else, but it's available on YouTube for everyone to listen to. So just go to YouTube, type in Bob's RPG Radio. You'll see it. It's good. It's good stuff. It's a good time.
It'll also be in the link in the description. But
cool.
Yeah, there you go. Bob, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate you being here. Had a lot of fun talking to you, man.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Of course. But if you guys enjoyed, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of my content, then you can check out RPG Horror Stories, where we check out the best and worst of Dungeons & Dragons. Volume 2 is out right now, so if you want to check that out, linked in the cards. And while you're there, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. Finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down to the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment, good player, to let me know you made it to the end of the video. In reference to our last voice caller, because I want everyone to be calling out how awesome that guy is. And that's like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Or we will see you all next time. Farewell.